the Fox 29 studios, this is Good Day Philadelphia.
Reportedly, the retrial of Bill Cosby's sexual assault case could be in the hands of the jury as early as this week. This as more explosive details are revealed surrounding the nearly decade-old encounter. Week 2 of testimony with Andrea Constand on the stand last Monday. Defense lawyers tried to portray her as a vengeful lover. Constand's mother testified that Bill Cosby apologized to her for his behavior following the alleged attack on her daughter. She also said he admitted to giving Andrea a prescription drug. Day 7. Jurors heard testimony from a 2005 deposition calling into question Cosby's definition of consent. In it, the comedian described reaching an area somewhere between permission and rejection while describing his relationship with Constand. Cosby's admissions 13 years ago about giving drugs to women was revealed on Wednesday as the prosecution wrapped up its case. The defense hit back with its star witness, Marguerite Jackson, and she said Constand spoke of framing a high-profile person for money a few weeks after accusing Cosby drugged and molested her. Cosby's lawyers asked the judge to clear the 80-year-old of all charges for the 5th time on day 9. They argued the opposing side hadn't proved he did anything illegal and accused prosecutors of tainting the jury by implying the defense team helped Marguerite Jackson fabricate her story. This leads us to Friday, day 10 of the case, which involved jurors getting a look at Cosby's travel records. Cosby's team is arguing he never visited his Philadelphia mansion in the month he is accused of drugging and molesting the woman there. If convicted, he faces 3 counts of aggravated indecent assault, each of those punishable by 10 years in prison. Our legal expert, Joseph Marrone, our cultural analyst and president of Black Men at Penn, Chad Lassiter. Good morning.
Good morning. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. Chad, from a cultural perspective, what are you saying after 2 weeks of testimony now?
After 2 weeks of testimony now, I think people still don't know whether or not Bill Cosby is a serial rapist. There are people who are arguing maybe he is, but there are still people who are caught up in Cliff Huxtable. And so I think we still see that after all this time.
Joseph, from a legal perspective, do you agree with Chad that there is some reasonable doubt there for the jury?
Well, I think the defense team is doing one hell of a job of interjecting reasonable doubt into this case. They took a whole new theme into this case, all about greed and money. It's worked versus the, a love relationship that went bad was the first case.
Yeah.
This was all about, greed, money, and taking advantage of an opportunity. So is it working? I think it is to some extent. Will it take it to a reasonable doubt? We don't know yet.
Tell me this. We had heard from the judge in the beginning. He warned the jury this could be a month-long trial. It's going pretty fast. Is it because some of these women aren't testifying as long as we thought, or we're not hearing more details? Why is it so speedy?
Usually on a retrial, even the prosecution tends to streamline the case, really get to the issues, cut a lot of the fat out because they don't want to lose the jury. They want to get right to the issues. They had the 5 women testify. They brought in the victim. They brought in the victim's mother. They brought in the detectives. They were clean about it, and they have a nice, tight case. And usually that's what brings a conviction about. So that's why I think you see it a lot that way.
Chad, are you guys discussing this in class? I know it's a current events topic right now. Well, a lot of students are talking about it.
Well, so much going on. Starbucks, Meek Mill. So a lot of my students are swept up in a lot of that. But I oftentimes do bring up the conversation around the mere fact that what's lost in this is the women who have been victims of what I see as Bill Cosby being a sexual predator. And so that's what lost. The way we discount their voices, the way we silence them, the way that we negate their humanity by simply saying, oh, this couldn't happen, even when the data presents that Bill Cosby more often than not is pointing to him being a serial rapist.
Do these conversations become heated sometimes in classrooms when people are on both sides?
Yeah. But it happens in all communities. It happens in the salons, it happens in the barbershops, it happens in our houses of faith, because people want to hold on to that identity of him being America's dad.
Joseph, from the legal perspective of tomorrow, the judge is waiting to make a ruling on some missing witness. Is that
right?
Tell me about that.
The defense continues to come up with ways to interject reasonable doubt through supporting the greed story.
Okay.
So they have a friend of hers who testified in the civil trial who apparently made some statements to support that.
Right.
They can't find her.
Right.
So
She's down in North Carolina?
Right. So now they want to read her transcript into the record, which probably her transcript is actually more persuasive than actually her testimony. So the judge is saying, listen, show me you can't find her. Show me that you actually sent her a subpoena, because if you can't do that, you can't read the transcript. And these are little tidbits that I think Mesereau and his team are trying to do to try to continue this theme that somehow I think is working to some extent.
Chad, how do you feel about that when you say you think that some of these women are victims? We heard 4 of them say that they felt like they were at least raped or in some cases assaulted by Bill Cosby, with the defense so strongly saying, you're not a victim, you're money hungry, you want fame.
Well, for my therapist hat, I think it's very traumatic because what they're going through is another vicarious traumatization, right? Their families are being dragged through this. And then what we also have is we have Bill Cosby and the image of Bill Cosby that continues to be, you know, highlighted on television and media and print and things of that nature. And these are women who have to see that. And so, you know, one of the things that we need to really recognize is that this is real, and these are real stories. These are real human beings who may have experienced this. And then when you're talking about Bill Cosby saying that, you know, take this blue pill, it's your friend, you know, you're rendering people without agency. And so I have a real big problem with that.
Joseph, really quickly, I know if they don't find this woman, you talked about reading the deposition, prosecutors are saying, no way, we don't want that to happen because then they can't cross-examine her. So will this benefit more of the defense team's argument if they are just simply allowed to read that from the judge?
There's no question, because they are able just to read it the way it sits in the deposition, right? So they have it already tailored that way, and it helps them kind of support this theme that they're hanging on to, which to some extent, as I said, is working. But you know, people must remember that there's been a lot of testimony, and Cosby's transcript was read into the record, his own words, and they're very compelling. And I think that's what's going to do this man in and ultimately convict him.
Okay. Joseph's been on Twitter, been really busy keeping up with it, live tweeting, so follow him if you want to keep up with the updates. Chad, thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.